Welcome to Soil and Soul, a new Christian podcast to those who want to invest in yields that count most. 5 days a week during planting and harvest seasons, Soil and Soul looks to help you sow seeds and reap a golden harvest.
Okay. Well, hey, everybody. It's Father Feller, and this is Passing on Faith Through Farming. And I am pleased to welcome and also introduce to you today Caleb Pokorny, who is one of our hosts in this season's of Soil and Soul. Caleb, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, Father. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing pretty good. We're recording right after Easter, and I made it. I made it through, and
a busy week and a busy season.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm just tired or delirious, but for some reason, bunnies are laying eggs. Who would have thought? And it gets better. There's chocolate inside. A whole new way of agriculture.
Yeah.
We have an egg laying farming around here in the Esterville, Emmitsburg, Grettinger area. Thousands or millions of birds. And then we have company here that breaks the eggs, and then they make various products with them. And so I did make that joke in the homily, knowing that the CEO or the chief operating person was in the pew to get his attention. But that's enough about me, Caleb. Tell me about yourself. You and I have known each other for a number of years now, and I've gotten to see your kids grow up. But yeah, just tell us a little bit about yourself and your family.
Okay, so I was born on a farm in eastern Nebraska and grew up there. Went to college at the University of Nebraska, where I studied agronomy, and that is where I met my wife, and she was studying chemical engineering. She went to work for Cargill right when we got out of college, and she still does today. I went and worked for a farmers cooperative in Nebraska, and then started working in the seed industry on the research side, and ended up working on the sales on the kind of the commercial side of the seed industry as an agronomist. And I had done that for several years until Sydney got an opportunity to move to Fort Dodge, Iowa, with Cargill to manage the ethanol plant there. And at that time, my role was covering both Nebraska and Iowa as a regional agronomy lead. So I was able to continue doing that role until our youngest of 4 children was born in 2021 while we were in Fort Dodge. And at that time, we did not have any daycare options. That was kind of middle of the COVID pandemic, and was very difficult to line up daycare. So at that point, I left my corporate job and began staying home with the kids. And it was also around that time that I started to farm with my father back in Nebraska a little bit more, purposefully. Like I had always kind of gone back and helped out and done stuff, but ended up, kind of going into business with my dad at that point, where we farm basically on shares. I cover some of the expenses, and then we split the income. So yeah, we've been in Fort Dodge for 6 years now, almost, I guess 5.5 years. So I really enjoy our time there. And yeah, we got to meet you at Holy Trinity Parish. I think when we moved, it was the first or second mass that they had said at Holy Trinity Parish. So
yeah,
it was it's been a great community. We're really glad to be a part of it and get to know you. You were the one who baptized Alice, our youngest. So
yeah, I'm glad I got to know you guys too. And little did I know, you guys would be we grow in relationship and friendship and see each other on different holiday parties and so forth. And we so going back, I want to ask you about the seed research in a minute.
Yeah.
But you grew up in Nebraska, and the farming that you're doing now with your dad, is that where? I mean, were you guys farming back then? Did you grow up on a farm?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So my dad was born. When he was born, they lived in a different house, but they moved into this house on this farm in 1961, and he's been here in this house. That's actually where I'm sitting right now. I'm back in Nebraska at the moment because I was hoping to do some farming and ended up getting rained out, but I'm still here in Nebraska. Yeah, he's been here. We have, some land that is coming up on our, as being a century farm here. So it's been, in our family ownership for about 98 years now. But yeah, so we I live in Fort Dodge and farm in Nebraska, so I get to drive, 3.5 hours to do my farming. So,
Well, where's the gasoline and diesel cheaper? Iowa or
uh,
Nebraska?
it
It's so
depends. Sometimes
expensive, I know.
there's a few stations that I know like are always going to be 10 cents cheaper. So sometimes I kind of try and stop at those. But we also we always buy gift cards through Scrip through the school, and so we get we always buy our Quick Star or Casey's gift cards so that we get some money back for doing that.
Oh, that's right. It saves some money going to the credit card companies. Instead, it goes to helping kids be educated. Isn't that great?
Exactly.
I love
Exactly.
it. So, thinking about the kids and passing on faith through farming, I just want to start with the seed research. What did you do with it? I know the goal is to have a seed that grows into a plant that has certain characteristics that does well in certain environments, like maybe even on Mars. No,
Yeah.
no. To quote the Martian movie. But can you tell me a little bit about what that seed research was like, what you did, and what were your objectives?
Yeah, absolutely. So I worked at a corn breeding station it was Monsanto at the time. And, we had two breeders on site. And so they would take different corn inbred lines and cross them to create new corn inbred lines. And they would create hundreds or thousands of lines every year. And so then each of those lines would get crossed to a different inbred line to make a new hybrid. So all of the corn that farmers grow today are hybrids, right? So it comes from crossing two different inbred lines to create a hybrid. And so when the breeders would create these hundreds of new inbred lines, they would cross them, and so we would end up with thousands of new hybrid combinations, and we would test those. And these were tested in two plots that were about 20 feet long, and there would be tens of thousands of these individual plots within a 25 or 30 acre field. So we would go through, we would plant these plots. We use specialized planters where we can uh, continuously drive through the field, and there are employees riding on the back of the planter. There's a platform on the planter, and they would be dumping individual seed packets through this system that would meter the correct seeds during the correct sequence while it's going through the field. So we are planting them in these 20-foot plots, and then there's a 30-inch break called an alley, and then it would plant the next 20-foot plot. And we would do this for hours in the spring, riding these planters in all kinds of conditions, dumping packets. And then throughout the growing season, we're taking notes on these new hybrid combinations to see if there's anything that is going to basically disqualify it from being a commercial hybrid that would get advanced. Because out of these, for every 1,000 new hybrid combinations that were created, there's probably less than 10 that get commercialized and sold to a farmer. So the failure rate of these new hybrids is incredibly high. Like there's very strict, kind of very high standards that the breeders look at when they are looking at advancing new hybrids that get released to the farmers.
Well, I was just thinking first, it's fascinating of how you do that and keep all those little plots identified and separated. So,
Yeah.
okay, this is this hybrid in this like square footage.
Oh yeah.
I imagine GPS is used with that or something like that.
Yeah, so every packet that was dumped had a barcode, and we would basically build the fields ahead of time where we would lay the packets in order or stack them in order in the box. So when we get to the field, we just have to take the box out of the trailer, put it on the planter, and as you're going through the field, you grab the next packet in line, and it's going to plant in the correct order that we had kind of mapped out ahead of time while we were building the fields and scanning all these packets in to make sure that everything's in the right order.
Well, so then I was thinking about the specificity with which you operated and the outcomes you saw and the huge failure rate, which is planned for and like accepted because we're going to
Yeah.
come up with 10 that are really great, 10% or whatever it is. And I was thinking with like kids, like there isn't always that specificity of operation.
Right.
And we really hope there isn't a 90% fail rate, whatever failure
Yeah,
is.
I like to think, I have the same high standards, but I'm not discarding. That was the main term. Like these things would get discarded, but you don't get to discard your kids, right? Yeah, I mean, you've got to kind of work and you've got to put a lot into them to make sure that they're meeting the standards and growing up to be good humans.
I really love that is the investment of the parent in the child that persists. And that reminds me from the scriptures of how there was the I think the fig tree, right?
Yeah,
And it wasn't bearing fruit, and the guy was like, okay, just give me another year. Or is that how it went? I just give me a chance, and then if
yeah,
it doesn't, then we can cut it down. And the God oftentimes would refer to his chosen people of Israel as the vineyard of the Lord. Like here
yeah.
he is. He planted a vineyard. He put
He's
a
dressing the
hedge around it.
vines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so then he invests in it and he doesn't throw it out. And then he invests in it so much that he sends his son Jesus to be the new vine, and that these branches can be grafted onto
yeah,
and bring life. And so I just think of the parent as working with specificity, but at the same time, never being so discouraged that we got to start over or throw ourselves out as parents.
right.
Um, because even if there are failures, so to say, like poor choices we make as parents, or we not
Yeah,
even that, maybe you feel like, oh, I'm not doing enough because we can't do enough. We're
right.
limited. The good that we do makes a huge impact for that seed of the child to grow. I don't know. That's what that just came to mind. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think even just in regular farming, like not in research, like there's some takeaways there also, because like you just kind of have to work with what you get sometimes. Like I was saying this weekend, I was coming back to do some farming. Like I was hoping to get my wheat sprayed and spray the burn down for my corn and soybean fields. So I left Thursday morning. I left Fort Dodge at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was supposed to rain, but it was not supposed to start until 6 p.m. So I was like, oh, perfect. I'll be able to get this done. The rain will get in and activate, the residual herbicides. And as I was pulling up to the farm at 7:45, like it was starting to sprinkle. And then we ended up getting 6,500 hundredths of rain by like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I was like, well, that's kind of shot for the weekend. But the rain is also a blessing. We were incredibly dry all of March.
Yeah.
We did have, some rain in the first week of April, and then this rain now. Like we're gonna have a full or refill the soil profile before we get in to start planting.
So
Sometimes God gives us what we need, even if it's not what we if we know that we need it at the moment.
how true is that? And I just think, just as Jesus used analogies, metaphors, stories that are agricultural to
Oh
show us
yeah,
about God's plan, parents and educators and farmers in general, we can do the same thing. Is
absolutely.
we know farming so well, we know ranching so well, and now we think about, well, how can we see this as a reflection of how God is working? Like you just said with the rain. I mean, you could teach kids, well, sometimes God gives us what we need, even if it's not what we wanted or
Right.
at the right time, and we might not realize we actually needed it.
Yeah.
And he can work through like a storm, and while he doesn't want us to be hurt or anything, he can work good out of it because he still loves us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so as like you're farming with your kids, you're in the tractor, or you're driving to the field, or you're having a lunch dinner or lunch out on the tailbed of the truck, or you can just explain something of farming and then relate it to God.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We always want to do, we want to do the best that we can when we're farming. This is our livelihood, so it's part of how we make money, and so we want to do the best, and just to be able to continue to do this livelihood. And I think it applies to your children also. Like you always want to do the best thing that you are capable of doing in the moment. Like we don't always have control of the outcomes or the circumstances, but you can always choose to do the best thing in the moment. So that's
Yeah. Well, and as a farmer is doing the best thing that she or he can do in the moment, and sometimes it's simply waiting.
right.
But with all the other variables that are out of our control, sometimes, or maybe most of the time, the crop still grows. And that reminds us that even within life, we do what we can, the best that we can do. And sometimes it means we're not waiting. in some respect, but God's still working,
Yeah.
and there's still good coming.
Yeah.
Um, and that sort of lived faith, lived experience brings about a faith that, like, okay, and a wisdom, I'd say. You get
Oh yeah.
those. You ever been around older people who've had a lot of experiences and can share that wisdom?
Oh yeah, that was always my favorite part when I was working on, on the commercial, on the sales side as an agronomist. It was always the best part of the job is meeting with older farmers that have been there for, 50, 60, 70 years even, and getting to talk to them and pick their brains. So
Well, so you're on that side of things with the farming, and your wife is on the other side with the harvest, right? She deals more with harvested product. Is that what she does?
yeah, so Cargill's plant there at Fort Dodge, like, they take in corn from area farmers and turn it into a bunch of products. So there's corn sugar or corn syrup. They make not high fructose corn syrup, but like regular corn syrup, and ethanol. And then there's a lot of byproducts that come, from the ethanol process that go into cattle feed. They have a across the fence partner there that uses, some of the dextrose that they produce for their process. So they utilize every part of the kernel of corn. So
Wait, isn't that neat? In the same household is the beginning and the end, sort
right,
of the full circle.
yeah,
What are
we
your
always joked about
conversation?
that.
What are your
When I was working at, on the breeding side, I said like I developed corn varieties and then Sydney processed them.
Well, I don't know how to relate that to the kids, but
With the kids, we have to work together. We can't just silo some of these processes. We have to work together.
so okay. So now that you travel for farming, for agriculture, I mean, in terms of communication with your kids and your family, how do
Yeah.
you do that? Like, do you just call them or?
Yeah. So and it's where what our family dynamic has been for the last 5 years, where I've been staying home with the kids. Like I've handled a lot of that. Sydney still does a lot of menu planning, but I still do almost all the cooking, or I'm doing laundry. I'm handling almost everything with the school. Anything the kids need for school. So like this morning, I'd just woken up and Sydney had called me, and she had to fill out some permission slips for Samson, had some field trips coming up, and she's like, "These are due today," and I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "They've probably been sitting in Samson's backpack for 2 weeks if I know Samson." But she was having to ask me, like, what is this part that I need to fill out, and this, and so I had to give her some tips on what she needed to get on that permission slip. Yeah, it's in the past when we were both working, we always kind of had to split a lot of that, but I've taken a lot of that over now, and so it's kind of a little bit of role reversal, and she's got to handle some of the domestic stuff. So yeah, the communication is huge though.
Yeah, well, cell phones, for as much as they can be a distraction, they can be a
Oh
great,
yeah,
opportunity for communication and
yeah.
staying connected with the kids. And your oldest is in what grade right now?
May is a freshman, and
Wow.
Libby is in seventh grade. Samson is in fourth, and Alice is in 4-year-old preschool. So yeah.
Okay. Have they ever been with you in Nebraska at the farm?
Yeah,
And
actually, last year, Alice came quite, like when she was in 3-year-old preschool. There were times if I was coming during the week, because we didn't have a daycare or place that she could go during the day. So if I was coming, like if I would leave on a Thursday, I would bring Alice with me, and then Sydney could get the older kids dropped off and picked up at school. But Alice, when she was only there 3 days a week for 3 hours at a time, she would have been home the rest of the time. So I had to bring Alice with me. And there are times where, like, if the kids didn't had a long weekend or something, and there's stuff I need to get done at the farm, but Sydney couldn't take off at work, where I would take 2 or 3 or all of the kids with me out to the farm, and we would come spend an extended weekend out here and get some farm stuff done.
I think that's one of the blessings that is not always, but is often experienced with farming is it can be a family activity, at least being around it.
Yeah.
Um, and it's great those engineers built the second seat in the combines and tractors, the buddy seat.
Oh yeah.
Um, it can bring family together. And I think that's a beautiful thing about the unity of life, is that our work, our education, our family, it all can go together. It's not like separate silos that are
Yeah.
are completely separate from each other. Um, and so yeah, but I am excited to have you be one of the hosts of Soil and Soul this year. Thank you so much. You're going to enjoy working with Kayla and with Aaron, and I'm glad we got this opportunity to talk and to think about how farming is not just a place of passing on the faith with our kids, but we can really utilize the metaphors and analogies and stories and examples of farming to show our kids and explain to our kids who God is and how He works and how we have hope, even amidst the storms and difficulties. So thank you
Right.
so much for
Thank
everything.
you, Father Feller.
All right. We'll talk to you again soon. Have a great day. And good luck
All
this
right.
spring.
Yeah, I think we might need it. We'll see.
All right. Bye. So
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Soil and Soul, and we hope that it blesses you. Please stay tuned during the week for the other daily shows that we offer as part of this special ministry project we're providing during the peak seasons of planting and harvest. Also, if you'd like to find out more about Catholic Passage, how you might collaborate with us, or even support our mission, please visit us at CatholicPassage.com. Most importantly, you can support us with your prayers. We'll be praying for you. Please pray for us.